We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. How are you feeling this morning? The mental health capacity of it? Are you reliving a year ago as tornadoes rip through Middle Tennessee and feel anxiety, or still dealing with the anxiety of COVID-19 as we all have until this finally does pass? We're talking about mental health issues, depression, COVID-19, and other things that depress you. With our guests, Tom Starling and Karen Carruthers, both of them on with us this morning, Mental Health America. Tom, the Mid-South CEO. And thought, Tom, I'd hit you up with this because one of our Facebook viewers right now, Emmanuel's asking about how about talking about homelessness and the mental health community. We talk about folks that, maybe have the means and the resources to reach out. And we know the homeless community has a lot of mental health issues, some drug abuse issues as well. And yet they're kind of marginalized where, you don't know or don't see them. So it's not as easy to give them or get the help that they maybe need. What are your thoughts on that?
There are a lot of great community resources that help to attend to some of those basic needs that some homeless individuals need. There's the Murfreesboro Cold Patrol, there's Room in the Inn, Salvation Army, and these are all such great needed opportunities, because for some people who are homeless, it is frankly just a lifestyle. It's something that they just choose. For some, there is some rampant mental illness, and sometimes that prohibits them from being able to know that this medication will help, or it prevents them from being able to hold down that job or pay their rent on time. And so there are a lot of community supports out there, places like Park Center or the Mental Health Cooperative, many of them who see people who either have TennCare or nothing. Those are such great resources out there. But unfortunately, some of the homeless individuals out there, they do seem to kind of go through this cycle of incarceration, hospitalization, homelessness, and it's just a cycle. And I know that a lot of groups like Urban Housing Solutions and others are really trying to put it into chronic homelessness, knowing that some people will just fall through the cracks, some people just get their house blown away by a tornado and never recover. But fortunately, Middle Tennessee does have a lot of really good resources. I think it's just, you have to also respect people's autonomy. You can't always involuntarily commit them to a hospital or involuntarily make them take their medication. And that's just one of those ethical principles when it comes to medicine that sometimes you just can't enforce, unfortunately. So we do have those homeless camps and those shelters that are, often going to be full or at capacity when it's very cold.
Okay, and yeah, those examples, and you're right, the autonomy that any adult in this country has. It's a little bit different for children. I mean, we haven't talked too much about juveniles, youngsters, who can every bit feel this kind of stress and anxiety that an adult does. Of course, then, hopefully, they have parents in the picture who indeed can control some of what kind of treatment they get. But sadly, we both know, or all three of us know, that there are cases of teen suicide, bullying, and the like, and other things that happen. Talk, if you would, maybe both of you, just about how you might handle a situation like this differently with a youngster than you would with an adult.
I think you can. I mean, certainly minors, if they have parents or teachers or guardians who can get them the help they need, even adults. I mean, if you have the power of attorney for health care, you can help make decisions for people who might not have the ability to make the best decisions for themselves. But for youth, unfortunately, in Tennessee, I mean, suicide is the 9th leading cause of death. Suicide for older adolescents, it's the 2nd leading cause of death, which is just terrible. More people die from suicide in Tennessee than from automobile accidents. And so, you start thinking of how this is really the most preventable form of death. And I would just encourage you, when it comes to teens, the one thing that really matters, the biggest protective factor is connectedness. And that's even more so with teens. And you think about the fact that this device here I don't know why they call it social media, but it really actually isolates us.
It's anti-social media. Okay.
It is. It is. And then you put in a pandemic where you can't even see your school friends, and you're isolating even more. And we really start losing that connectedness, which is so important to all of us. And I think that's one reason that all the humane shelters are completely empty. I mean, there's so many dogs and cats being purchased right now because people are longing for any type of connectedness that they can get, especially our youth.
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. And Karen, you can weigh in here as well on that. Just the fact that during COVID, and now we see a lot of the classrooms with the vaccines coming back. I know so many parents and children who were concerned about going back for safety reasons, but now, because of the connectivity, are very excited to get back with their peers. And I just have heard more cases of youngsters not only frustrated on online learning, which is a difficult transition, but just finding themselves, Karen, alone and isolated, not able to spend time with their peers, which is something until this point they've done every year of their lives. It was a complete shakeup, was it not?
Well, absolutely. It had to be very difficult, and I'm sure it is when you're able to go to school. And even in the summertime, if you're not in school, you could, gather with your friends. You could go to the mall. You could hang out at the movies. And with the pandemic, that's not available or has not been. But now, thank goodness, we're getting to a place with the vaccines and with looking at all the guidelines and putting those things in place that hopefully the children will be able, the students and the teens will be able to get back to school and have that socialization.
You know, I was wondering, you're talking to someone here who has 5 dogs, okay? My family, my wife and I, we have 5 dogs, and they're all rescues, and we love animals, and it's just interesting. And you're absolutely right, Tom, about the animal shelters and the like. And if there's been an upside to some degree of this isolation during COVID, it's been good news for so many of these loving animals looking for good homes. And they're in there. Is the therapeutic nature, and I just don't know if you guys ever deal with this or come across folks where you realize they're isolated, and the recommendation is get yourself a darn pet, because I guarantee you 100% or almost 100% of the time it's going to have a positive influence on someone. If they can afford it and care for one properly, go for it. I just wonder your thoughts on, the role a pet can play, as you're right, people have sought them out during COVID-19 pandemic.
It really is. I always laugh because anytime that we put a dog on our social media, our Facebook or LinkedIn, it gets more likes than anything else, by far. And, even here in our household, I mean, our dog was not a therapy dog or a service dog, but when our dog died in August, it's just amazing how much more they are part of the family than maybe they were even when I was a child. I mean, we go out of our way for these animals that just love us. And I've seen nursing homes with pot-bellied pigs. I've seen therapeutic horses, with equestrian programs used for therapy, dogs. I mean, it's just amazing when you have such unconditional love, somebody who's always glad to see you.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's life-changing every single day.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. It's sometimes just the absolute best medicine. Listen, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number for you. If you get a pen and paper, be ready for that. And we'll talk a little bit more about Mental Health America and some of the very valuable partnerships that help make a difference here in Middle Tennessee. We'll be back with more in our final segment with our guests right after this.